Hello, and you are listening to the Book Was Better podcast, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
And I'm Edward.
And this week we're talking about Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand. Trust me, the book was better.
Holy crap, episode 180 and a brand new guest, virgin to the show. Ed, how are you?
I'm awesome. I'm also, I don't know if anyone knows, but I'm in Melbourne. So,
You are in Melbourne, so this is a Skype cast.
yeah, coming in from across Australia.
So this is actually, and I wanted to do this while everybody was there at witness, just as a witness, just so I don't get accused of anything later. This is the first time we've really talked to each other beyond, Facebook interactions, but this is the first time we're chatting.
It is, yeah.
So
Yeah,
do you prefer Ed, Edward,
I don't mind anything really. Friends and stuff usually call me Ted or Ed.
Ted?
Edwards.
Tedward.
Tedward's fine.
So what made you want to do a horrible thing like be on this show?
Well, I'm friends with hosts that you guys have had in the past, Paris and Zach.
Those jerks.
Yeah, those assholes. No, but they said it's so much fun, and I've been a geek since birth, and I'm into all this sort of stuff, so it just kind of seemed like a great thing to do.
Well, that's fantastic. And obviously, there'll be sort of formal plugs at the end, but anything you want to do to talk about yourself, provide anybody a kind of reference of anything else, go for it. Do interject. I think part of the fun of having a new host on the show is getting to, for both myself and the listener, getting to learn about you as we go. So please, don't be shy, don't be polite.
Yeah, cool. Well, I do have a few things in the pipeline, but nothing solid yet. So, hopefully if today goes well, then next time I'm on, I'll have something to talk about. But at the moment, I'm just fresh as a daisy, and
I love it. Hot out of the oven.
yeah.
So I am, it's a public holiday here in Perth. It's the ironically named Labor Day. And I'm actually doing something that I don't usually do during the show, and especially not in the afternoon. I'm having a glass of wine in the afternoon. So I kind of feel like my late grandmother at this point.
I feel like you should have told me that beforehand, and I could have also had a glass of wine.
Well,
or just a flask full of water.
It's not too late. It's not too late.
Yeah, true.
Just do it when I'm reading out a boring piece of
Boring.
Tomb Raider.
It's going to be boring. This book's going to be amazing. It's a book based on a movie based on a video game.
Yeah, which was sort of a video game based on another movie, we could really say.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones with boobs.
Yeah, which is then based on real life figures.
Yeah, it's like Indiana Jones with 2 short rounds tucked under his tank top.
Well, 2 of those things that he gets at the start of the first movie.
That's why he was getting them. Yeah, this is the first half of my transition, because we did see as well, like this movie/book does show us that a lot of these archaeology artifacts are about getting separate pieces from different locations and then putting them together, perhaps under one's tank top, to act as boobs.
Yeah, I feel like they're stored pretty... I don't really know what the word is. Ineffectively, if they have artifacts stored, like one artifact stored in 2 pieces at different parts of the earth, who's going to use that?
I agree. It's not too handy. It's not like putting a spare set of keys under a pot plant.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, imagine if you had, 2 halves of one key. One was at your house, and then the other one was in Timbuktu.
What I like about Indiana Jones, though, in that situation, is an incredibly practical man, because you notice he's very economical in what he does. He doesn't let anything go to waste. He uses the bag of sand that he's been using as a breast up until this point, and he replaces the idol with it, which I think is, like being a good recycler.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Reduce, reuse, recycle, man.
Excellent. So something I did lie a little bit. We talked very, very briefly just before recording about our history with this film.
Yep.
So both saw it when it came out at the movies.
Yes, correct.
And I watched little bits and pieces of it in preparation for this, just to jog my memory on some things that the book was frustrating me with.
Yeah.
But, did you ever play the Tomb Raider games?
I did, yeah. I've been a fan of the Tomb Raider games since the first Tomb Raider on PC, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, right.
So, up to even the most recent one that came out a year and a half ago, maybe. So I'm more familiar with the games than I am with the films. I don't think I've seen the second film or the third film. So luckily this book's about the first film, which I have seen, although admittedly not too recently.
Well, you're not behind on the third film. There is no... The third film will be the reboot with
Right. Oh, yeah,
Vikander, which will be coming out later. So Angelina Jolie only did 2 of them.
Right, cool.
Notice that little
and
continental...
I have an interesting tidbit about Alicia Vikander as well.
Oh, yes, please.
I've actually worked with her. I
Oh!
worked on a film she was working on. So, yeah.
So a good potential Tomb Raider?
Yeah, she's great. She's really lovely, and I think she suits the kind of role, especially for the new game series. It's in a different direction than the old games were, so I think it's going to be a great match.
So there's a lot more humanity.
Yeah,
Which befits an actor of Vikander's quality. She was the absolute standout in Eddie Redmayne Lady film.
Oh, the Danish girl.
Yes, I loved her in that. She was
and
excellent.
also Ex Machina as well.
Yeah, fantastic. She's not a real robot though, is she?
I didn't check.
Okay.
Maybe I should.
I think that's an important part when meeting someone. Granted, I didn't check whether you were... You could be like a chatbot. This could be a setup from that wily Zach.
Yeah, it's actually just Zach with a voice modifier, I mean.
All right, so this Tomb Raider this book is based on the 2001 film. It's the second worst thing to happen in 2001. And written by Dave Stern. Not the brother of Daniel, unfortunately. But author of... he wrote some Star Trek.
Oh, right, cool.
He wrote the Punisher novelization, the Thomas Jane, John Travolta
Awesome.
joint. And I didn't know this existed. He wrote the novelization for the Blair Witch Project.
Wait, I didn't even know there was a novelization of the Blair Witch Project either.
According to Goodreads. Unless
Is the film not based on the book?
I don't know. I thought it was based on chilling real events.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
I'd like... Unless it's some sort of, like, tie-in, companion lore kind of book. But if there is a novelization, I think that's a really worthy candidate for a future show.
Definitely.
Maybe for Halloween.
Ooh.
Spooky. I imagine that's going to be a really boring book, though.
Well, yeah, because it's all found footage. So how do you translate found footage into... It's just all dialogue.
It's all found pages.
It's just dialogue.
All
Maybe it's written like The Road. Did you ever read The Road? That was a great film.
No, I didn't.
You should do The Road.
I watched the film. Well, I can't do... There's no novelization of The Road. The book was better rules.
Right, yeah.
Because otherwise we'd be reading good books.
Yeah.
You have to write the thing that was shat out to make money afterwards by an intern.
True. Or Dave Stern.
Yeah, because otherwise we'd be reading like, oh, here's a book was better on Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And,
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Here's Ender's Game. I mean, what would we have to say about that?
Well,
So,
I need to say about Ender's Game.
rule of thumb is, like, we can't do Charles Dickens' Great Expectations, but there is a novelization of Gwyneth Paltrow's Great Expectations.
Oh, really?
And that's fair game.
Oh, well, you got to do it.
One day I will.
One day.
Yes, very soon. All right, should we get into this thing?
Let's get into it.
Because it's a big book.
340 pages, right?
Yes, I did skim a couple of those, though.
That's solid.
Okay, so here is the beginning. It is a prelude set in December 1980 in London. Please take it away.
Time was fast running out. Croft knew that, and yet he still could not decide what to do. In just a few short days, he'd be on a plane bound for Novaya Zemlya. Okay. There were a million details remaining to be sorted out regarding the expedition. He should be on the phone, talking with Lobodnin, lining up the workers, paying court to the government functionaries and museum officials whose support was essential to the expedition's success. He should be arranging the supplies, making sure the food was edible this time out, and no matter what the weather, they wouldn't have adequate shelter. But he couldn't think about the expedition right now. all he could think about were the pages of Manethan's Ageptica put back on his desk in the wrong order.
Threw you some challenges there.
Yeah, there's some pretty curly words in there.
All nonsense. All absolute gubbins. And isn't that an absolute masterclass on not building excitement for the opening of your novel? So
Yes.
the short version of this is essentially that Croft could have been doing a whole lot of boring things, but instead was doing a different boring thing.
Yeah, he was just thinking about a boring book that wasn't in the right order. I mean, even that, it's like, do people really think of like things in the desk and be like, that's not in the right order?
Tell you what as well, if you were just, picking this up, you hadn't seen the film, you weren't aware of the lore, wouldn't you be confused by Croft being a he?
Yeah, totally.
What a twist.
Or is it? Oh yeah.
What, before the...
I was going to be like, what if it's a young Lara? But then there's clearly he's throughout it. So
Yeah, true. But it could be a young Lara in a fake moustache. We don't know.
yeah, that's true. She hadn't got her idols yet, so perhaps.
I feel like it's worth saying as well, because there's quite a few American listeners, that it really fucks me off that at least 50% of the Americans I see talking about Lara Croft online say Laura Croft. They just don't understand. They have not read the word.
Yeah, it's like when they say Craig. It's Craig.
Yeah.
Craig.
I mean, that's a pronunciation thing. I think this is just really not seeing that it's a different word. I've heard someone defend it by going, oh, well, people are more familiar with the word Laura, so they say that
Ridiculous.
instead. But it's like, that's not how words work.
Yeah, that's like, oh, I'm more familiar with the word book, so I don't say car.
Yeah. I'm just going to take the book down to the shops if you get my drift.
Exactly. Maybe it's like that phenomenon where like people read the first letter and the last letter, and then everything else in between just doesn't matter.
Look, when I was a kid and I was reading Asterix, I did that with a lot of the names. I admit it. But Lara's a 4-letter word.
Yeah, it's pretty lazy not to read it.
Anyway,
Yeah, like,
this
I could have done
Croft,
that with Novaya Zemlya and Lobodkin and Menethian's Ageptica.
they were noble attempts. So this Croft is actually Lara's father, which was played by Angelina Jolie's real father, John
Voight.
Voight.
Yeah.
And it's basically him being paranoid for a few pages about who he can trust, peppered with scintillating details such as, at his left was a half-filled cup of Earl Grey and a half-eaten croissant. He didn't remember having the other half of either. Were they from this morning? Last night? He couldn't recall. As a matter of fact, he couldn't recall dinner last night either. A lot of weird commas in this thing as well. Like, I've put most of them in, but then I got lazy towards the end. But there's, like, weird sort of Christian Walken-like punctuation all through this thing.
Maybe it's to like pad out the word count or the letter count. Maybe he had
A character count.
a quota to make, and so they're like, oh, there's only like 2,000 characters in here. Add more commas.
And he added more characters as well.
Yeah.
Like Aunt Tilly, who we'll meet soon.
Oh god.
But obviously, he had no choice but to call on his daughter, the famous Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, to travel around the globe solving the mystery of the missing half of the croissant. Did you play that game on the PS2, the croissant one?
That's the tutorial. mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
where
in-
you still Lara.
In the Notre Dame Cathedral.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Absolutely
There's a
loved it.
T-Rex. There's a T-Rex that chases.
There is a T-Rex and you have to escape it on a bicycle.
Yeah.
So he literally goes through the process of describing people he could trust. So talk about extra characters. Like we'll get a paragraph of him going, what about this person who did this and is my relation this way and this and this and this? Nah. What about this person? So expert padding. And then the little child Lara enters. And I have to ask, is she hot?
For an 8-year-old, she meets the appropriate beauty standards for today's society.
They say, and this is creepy, and I can't remember the source, I just remember seeing it on TV at some point. They did a big survey on attractiveness, and they had all these pictures, like headshots of women, and they canvassed many, many people. And, people talk about symmetry and golden triangles and all that sort of stuff. But apparently it was the more childlike that people went for.
Yeah, I'd believe that.
It's a sick world out there.
It really is.
Child Lara enters. Here we go.
Oh, that's me? Yeah, cool, sorry.
I'm just going to, like, pause at times. You just jump in. As I said, we're on Skype, so we don't know when each other is about to talk. But
That's true.
I'm going to talk a lot, which means I do invite you to read as many of these as you would like.
Sure. All right, I'll start. At the Nutcracker, he'd finally noticed what his friends had been telling him for the past year. His daughter was the spitting image of her mother. Hang on, I'll start that again.
Some of this is my typing, by the way.
Yeah, but no, it's good. At the Nutcracker, he'd finally noticed what his friends had been telling him for the past year. His daughter was the spitting image of her mother. He had gone to the ballet in a green velvet dress. Oh, that's she. Oh.
Yeah, that's me. That's my typo.
Yeah, that's you. She had gone to the ballet in a green velvet dress, pinning her dark hair up in a French twist that made her look dignified beyond her years. All 7 of them.
I kind of feel a bit of a Trump-Ivanka relationship going on here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I mentioned, but Lord Croft's friend that he was talking about is actually Howard Stern.
Jesus. Roman Polanski.
Had a lot of really frank conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty inappropriate to be like, hey, by the way, your daughter looks exactly like your really hot wife.
The one that you had sex with in order to produce that daughter. It's like a snake head eating the tail on the opposite side.
Ouroboros.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
And the butler is racist.
Wilson crossed the room and set the tray down on the console at Croft's left hand. Wields the knife like a gypsy woman, if you ask me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's a butler who's been shifted by a gypsy woman.
Yeah.
During
you can tell this was written in 2001.
Yes, when people weren't very tolerant of the filthy gypsies. The butler obviously has been the victim of a gypsy scam gone awry.
Yeah. Well, I think it's fine. I can reconcile. When I was a kid, I used to lock the butler in the freezer in the game. When you're doing the mission in Croft Manor, you can get the butler to follow you around, and if you're quick enough, you can lock him in the freezer, which I did a lot. So now I'm fine with it. I always felt kind of bad, but now I'm like, yeah, you're a racist butler, so in the freezer with you.
I wasn't aware of that. I did those sorts of things all the time in The Sims. I guess in Tomb Raider, the butler didn't piss himself if you locked him in the freezer.
No, you just forget about him, because you do that and then you finish the mission, and you probably leave him in there forever because you're traveling the globe.
I did read that if you shoot at him, he protects himself, like he shields himself with the silver tray.
Yeah.
And then Chris Barry's butler character in this does the same thing at one point.
Yeah, nice little nod to the games.
An Easter egg.
Yeah.
So Croft, at this moment, he realizes the potential in his daughter to basically solve all of his future problems, and he begins penning her a letter.
If you are reading this letter, then I am no longer with you, and I miss you, and I love you always and forever. Croft bent over his paper again. Outside, snow began to fall.
So now we head to chapter 1 and the present. Clock hands whir, pages fly off the calendar, Lara's breasts blossom into 2 gigantic polygons. This is it. We've weathered the main course, the vegetables. Here's our dessert. Here's Lara Croft, right?
Yeah. Manfred Powell rode into Venice like a king.
What?
The procession felt natural to him, like putting on a favourite old suit he'd forgotten in the corner of his closet. Comfortable.
So, I remember the movie. We're supposed to be seeing Lara Croft raiding a tomb and fighting a robot. So, this book, which started off really boring and unlike the film, it is doubled down on that in chapter 1. Like, it does not want us to read or enjoy it.
I'm telling you, it's the padding out of the story. He had a quota, and he's like, maybe it was the whole, like, teasing aspect of it, like...
Just building our anticipation.
Yeah, anticipation. Yeah, delayed gratification.
Because 340 pages is a very long book for a movie that is essentially about a bad guy and a good girl trying to find 2 pieces of a triangle.
Yeah.
Although Manfred Powell, he is the bad guy and played by Ian Glenn, Jorah in Game of Thrones.
Nice. I love him in Game of Thrones.
Me too. And it was one of those funny things when I was looking at IMDb. Obviously, like we said, I'd seen the movie in the cinema, but would have had no idea about Ian Glenn. And I was like, what? Really? Oh, that's cool. It was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it's like, spoiler alert, Daniel Craig as well.
I know. And you know what? I honestly remember, like, because he's got such a big potato of a noggin. And this isn't like Sam Mendes shooting him beautifully, making every image look like a sort of catalogue image.
Yeah.
This is just big old King Edward Spuddy Daniel Craig standing in front of Angelina Jolie. And I, without any hyperbole, I remember being in the cinema, looking at him opposite and going, where the fuck did they get this guy? Like, what? Why does he get to be in this film? What's his caper?
And because he hadn't really done much before that, had he? I think this was kind of, I guess, big break is probably a bold way of putting it, but he'd only really done sort of English films before that.
Yeah, this must have been the first time I'd seen him or noticed him, for sure.
Yeah. And also, we haven't got to the little friend yet. I'll come back to him. That's
Okay.
fine.
Is that Pims?
The pins?
What little friend?
No, her like techie IT.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant, because Ian Glenn's got a little friend called Pims.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, like, I didn't really mention him in this, and then I mentioned him at one point, and I couldn't tell you anything about him, so I was hoping you knew. Sorry.
No.
Forget all about all of
My
that.
memory doesn't stretch back that far.
It's all right.
I do love Pims to drink, though.
Yes, I'll stop talking.
Keep talking.
I'll keep talking. So, yeah. So basically, 22 minutes in, and we're not even at the beginning of the movie yet. So if we stuck too closely, this would be a 4-hour podcast. So forget this chapter. This is just the bad guys posturing. They're talking about finding clues and a whole lot of shit that the movie really doesn't care to mention at this point. So let's try chapter 2 and see if we have Lara Croft fighting a robot.
It was the 15th of May, and Lara Croft was not a happy camper. She'd stubbed her toe getting out of bed. Then she'd gotten dressed, only to find a rip in her favourite shorts.
What the fuck is going on here? I mean, the movie opens with her in full Tomb Raider costume. She's got the 2 guns. She's fighting a robot. She's in a tomb. It's not her boring morning routine. This is bullshit.
Yeah, it's... could they have put this in the movie? I feel like we could have seen Angelina Jolie stubbing her toe and then finding a rip in her shorts.
I think you would need a really great director to sort of really low camera angle, maybe a bit of slow-mo as the toe. Maybe like, I reckon Zack Snyder could make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. Although too much CGI.
They might CGI her toes.
Yeah.
She might have really ugly toes. We don't know.
It'd be really cool if they did that thing that Zack Snyder did in 300 where like someone gets stabbed and like the blood kind of splashes. But they did that with Lara Croft's toe, so she stubs her toe and then there's like this really graphic blood splash on the screen.
Did you notice in that film, and this is so nitpicky, but there is blood just splashing everywhere, and then in all the aerial shots of the fight, there is no blood on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice that.
Where did it all go?
Soaked into the earth and became grease today.
Could have been mosquitoes.
Yeah, true.
So
Big in ancient Greece.
they were huge. Finally,
Lara cursed under her breath and dropped, drawing her guns as she did so, skidding on her butt, firing even as she got her first good look at the thing in front of her. It was a 10-foot-tall, 6-limbed monstrosity of metal and wire and high-tech circuitry, a droid.
copyright Lucasfilm, look out. I can't read skidding on her butt without thinking of a pug.
Yeah, I have a dog and she skids on her butt quite often.
I think that's why her and
It's
Brad
not a very
Pitt split.
glamorous description of who we're imagining as Angelina Jolie.
This is true. So she's trying to rescue a disc from the droid, and once defeated, something opens in the droid's chest. Is it the Death Star plans, or...?
A small tray popped straight up in the air towards her. It held a disc similar to the one in her hand, but the writing on it was different. Scrawled in black magic marker on the droid's disc were the words, "Kill Lara Croft." The one in Lara's hand, the one she'd taken as her prize, also had 3 words written on it. Lara's Party Mix! Lara switched the discs and pushed the tray back in. Music started playing very loudly. LEDs arranged around the droid's chest pulsed in time. Klieg lights suddenly lit up the chamber, piercing the darkness with bright columns of light.
And I'm done. Like that's a perfect point to just go, nah, I'm just gonna put this book down and go and do something else.
This is not the droid you're looking for.
No, absolutely not.
It's a party droid.
I did have to watch this in the film. In the film, there's no lights or sudden disco, so this is actually
I didn't remember the disco.
worse. Yeah. And you mentioned the little friend. Here he is. This is her inventor friend, Bryce, played by...
Noah Taylor,
Yeah.
who's an Aussie, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Like My Life as a Dog and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And also Game of Thrones.
That's true, yeah, he was in Game of Thrones. Maybe he called his old mate Ian and was like, hey, it's the Australian film market's not that great at the moment. Can you get me a job?
The Game of Thrones actors always hunt in packs.
Yeah.
Like, if you see one of them in a film, there'll be 2 or 3.
That's like, I don't know if you've seen the second Silent Hill film. The first one has Sean Bean in it. And the second one has Sean Bean and Kit Harington.
Yeah, right. No, I haven't.
Just another, Game of Thrones.
I wonder if they have books as well. Like novelizations.
I hope so.
Yeah.
should.
I think it must just be all the same agents because a lot of the Game of Thrones people are starting to show up in Star Wars as well.
Yeah, true. I mean, they're pretty big right now, so it's wise if you have a film to get someone that everybody knows.
Because Force Awakens has got, obviously, Gwendolyn Christie. It's got Thomas Brodie Sangster. Rogue One's got, the old guy that was the disgraced captain of the guard, the Kingsguard guy.
Oh, yeah.
He plays Joe Dana. And then we've got Emilia Clarke's going to be in the Han Solo movie. Something's up there.
It's a lot of inbreeding.
And the other cast member here is Lara's butler, Hillary, which is Rimmer from Red Dwarf.
Yes.
Got 3 interesting actors with absolutely zero charisma, like, between each other in this film.
Yeah, there's very little chemistry.
Absolutely. And I really got into this last week with Last Starfighter, but I want to kind of reiterate it here. I'm beginning to really loathe adult novelizations, and I think there was a point early, before my hiatus, you can tell the wine's kicking in. I'm not making much sense anymore. But, like, we were doing a lot of young adult. I was just like, oh, let's just do 80-page books. I can't be asked. And when you get into these 300-page versions, you realize that there's a real cost to padding something like a movie that's 90 minutes into 300 pages. Case in point.
And in the corner of the room, a refrigerator. Lara had instructed Hillary to clear it out at the end of each day without fail. Otherwise, the meals Bryce's well-meaning Aunt Tilly brought, meals which Bryce himself never touched, would certainly fester and turn into the kind of hazardous waste that Bryce seemed inclined to live in.
It is a cry of desperation when you have to bring in poor old Aunt Tilly in order to pad out the word count. So here is a pro writer tip. Unless this story is Ghostbusters, you do not need to tell me the contents of the fridge.
Yeah. Also, the fact that Bryce is mentioned like 3 times in one sentence. I feel like that's too many. Like, I feel like they could have just shortened that to like Bryce and then he himself had never touched.
And the author just got a handful of commas and just pelted it at that paragraph.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. The only other time you can tell me what's in the fridge. For Lara...
We don't talk about Crystal Skull.
Well, no, don't get me started on Crystal Skull. If you haven't gone back into our archives, I'm a huge defender of the fridge scene. I think it's
have to go back.
I think it's the best scene in the film.
I don't doubt that because the rest of the film is in fact terrible.
Well, the film... Okay, I'm going to go on a tiny tangent. Limit me to 60 seconds. The film neuters Indiana Jones at the end. It makes him part of this big pack of characters that just observes things. He doesn't do anything. But the fridge thing is the time when Indiana Jones actually takes action, does something outlandish, responds to a situation, and gets out of it in a crazy way. Like, it's the only time he has agency in that film.
That's true.
There you go.
I agree.
Okay. For Lara, history was something to be examined, probed, prodded, its innermost secrets uncovered and brought to light. That was why being an archaeologist, a tomb raider, as the press had taken to calling her, thank you very much, Alex, came so naturally to her. It's always the press in these situations coming up with the catchy names.
Yep. I feel like there isn't really an organic way in films like this to bring up the title. the title of the game or the movie or the book.
There needs
Except Iron Man. Iron Man was, him actually saying, I am Iron Man. But again, that was the press. It was someone in the press that sort of coined that term first.
You could probably put together a really nice montage. Someone's probably already done it of just characters in news offices going, Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, call him the Rhino, and just...
Iron Man, Tomb Raider. I feel like the names that the press make for, political figures and celebrities in real life should stick as well, but they don't.
True.
It's another headline. But they should.
I agree.
Some of them are great.
So Lara exits the shower and enters her room where Hillary is placing flowers.
I need to get dressed, Lara said. She let the towel drop. Hillary gasped and covered his eyes. Please, she said, don't even pretend you care. He peered out from behind his hand, then lowered entirely. Beauty is truth.
What do you make of that?
That's so creepy. It's so creepy.
I actually had to watch this bit in the film because I thought, that's not in the film. There's no way that happens in the film.
No.
And it kind of half happens in the film. But, she says, don't even pretend you care in the book. So, is she saying that Hillary's... I don't know. What is she saying about Hillary?
I don't know. Maybe that because they've been together for so long that he should be used to that sort of stuff, or that he is used to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you see my vagina every day, Hillary. What's the issue?
It's pretty presumptuous as well on both parts.
And the film's so weird because straight after the robot fighting, they have this shower scene which has got music going and lots of shots of her flicking her hair and doing pouty mouths and stuff and sort of slow-mo-y kind of things. So it's supposed to be sexy. It's supposed to be a bit of a crowd pleaser, but it's Tomb Raider, so you're seeing her neck and shoulders. I know in the old days a glimpse of stocking was thought of as something shocking, and now heaven knows anything goes, but it's still pretty chaste.
Yeah.
And then she goes...
What was the film rated? Was it M? Was it PG?
I don't know. I would be surprised if it was anything more than PG.
Yeah.
But in the film, she drops the towel and he goes, a lady should be modest, but keeps looking at her. And she goes, yes, a lady should be modest. Sort of but I'm no lady. And she is just side-boobing it up.
Yeah, I don't think that's any better than the book, to be honest.
No, and then she goes from the cheeky side boob to, look at my side boob, Hillary, to suddenly, oh, by the way, this is the 20th anniversary of the death of my father, and I'm so sad.
Boom. Bomb dropped.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird transition.
Well, I mean, she's naked, she's vulnerable, she has a confidant. Why wouldn't she just suddenly go as deep as possible and talk about the death of her father?
You've cleared that up for me because she's naked, she's in her birthday suit, she's thinking about the day she was born, which makes her think about her father, which makes her think about the loss of her father. You're right, it does make sense.
Yeah. Tangentially, but it does make sense.
And it also turns out, another trope here, that this is one of those 1,000 films where the MacGuffin has to be activated during a planetary alignment and an eclipse.
Tonight, Mercury and Venus align with Earth. It's the first stage in the alignment of all 9 planets, culminating in a full solar eclipse. It only happens once every 5,000 years, which was, now that she thought about it, a strange confluence of events. The anniversary of her father's disappearance, and the start of a once-in-a-lifetime astronomical event.
And let's not forget, this is also the day that she stubbed her toe.
And found the rip in her shorts.
Yes, and it was the anniversary of the missing croissant, half. He did eat half of it, to be fair.
Yeah.
And,
did he, though? That's the mystery.
Maybe he didn't even do that.
Maybe that's what she has to find.
There's 340 pages to explore all of these questions and more. She then dreams of her father, who tells her about a magic clock and wakes up to hear a clock ticking. Now, this reminded me, suddenly I thought, oh, I know Freud interpreted dreams. And I remember some writings of Freud from the past. So I'm just going to quote a little bit here and see if this enlightens us. Sigmund Freud's A General Introduction to Psychoanalysis from 1920 states, our patient gradually learns to understand that she has banished clocks and watches from her room during the night because the clock is the symbol of the female genital, The clock, which we have learned to interpret as a symbol for other things also, receives this role of the genital organ through its relation to periodic occurrences at equal intervals. A woman may, for instance, be found to boast that her menstruation is as regular as clockwork. I'm around a lot of boasting women,
Yeah.
and I can confirm that. The special fear of our patient, however, was that the ticking of the clock would disturb her in her sleep. The ticking of the clock may be compared to the throbbing of the clitoris during sexual excitement. So again, total Ivanka Trump
Jesus. I mean, that's...
Electra complex thing happening here.
Yeah. That's pretty full on. Like, that's a bit of a stretch, but, you know.
And that's 1920.
That makes sense.
They knew this all the way back then.
Yeah. Wow.
So where is this mysterious ticking coming from? Not quite where Freud thought, but...
She felt along the panel, looking for a way to open it. The wood bowed inward against the pressure from her hands. Ah, easy enough to see what lurked behind. Lara turned into a spin kick, slamming the heel of her foot into the wood, which splintered into 1,000 pieces as if it had been made to come apart.
So, considering this book spans many pages talking about the grand history of Croft Manor passed down through countless generations, I feel like spin kicking it into thousands of pieces is just a tad disrespectful.
Yeah, I get a real Bruce Wayne, Batman kind of vibe from this, where he just, like, trashes his mansion, despite the fact that it's been handed down from generation to generation.
You know, I've never thought about that before. You're 100% right. He just gutted that thing, didn't he?
Yeah, and also, like, I mean, if it's made to be kicked apart, don't you think it would look different to the rest of the wood? Like, did she just walk past it every day and was like, that looks a bit shabby?
Maybe there
Like,
was...
Hillary, what are you doing? Like, clean this wood better. It's pretty crazy.
Hillary, stop looking at my vagina
Yeah, stop looking at my throbbing clock.
and deal with that rather suspect panel over there.
Yeah.
So, with Bryce's help, the mysterious clock that's housed in the hidden room is revealed to contain a triangle covered in hieroglyphics. So this film is ultimately about the Illuminati.
Confirmed.
And, you know, I don't know what your knowledge of the Illuminati is. I thought, look, I'm reading a book about it, and maybe the book will tell us the significance of the eye in the triangle. And sure enough, we flash back to young Lara and her dad.
The all-seeing eye. Her father stared through his fingers at Lara. I see all. She giggled. I know all. I know. He leaned closer and closer and lowered his voice. You had no peas for dinner.
Daddy!
You had no peas for dinner, her father said in a deep voice.
Well, there's always Wikipedia. And do you honestly think that a British lord is going to use the double negative of you had no peas for dinner?
Yeah, maybe he's been spending too many time with foreigners and gypsies and all sorts and is forgetting his proper English dialect.
You did not have any peas for dinner, thank you. And while we're talking about that, you can really tell that this is an American trying to write British people because they say bugger and bloody hell all the time in this book, which is fair enough because I know when I write Americans, I try to work in yeehaw into every few sentences just so that we can keep it authentic.
Yeah.
And Lara takes the clock to an expert. That has a different meaning now, doesn't it, after the whole Freud thing? You know what? Let me tell you this quick story. And this is, I'm acting as a parrot here. I heard it from a friend, but this guy had these German guests staying with him.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the night, this big German guy woke him up and said, I want you to suck my cock. And he was like, what? And he was like, I want you to suck my cock. And he was like, excuse me. And he was like feeling a little bit nervous. And he ended up bringing him into his bedroom to show him. And he wanted him to set his clock.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
That reminds me of a story.
Yes.
Tangentially as well. Where when my sister was really young, she was about 2 or 3. And she was, because me and my family are Scottish. And so obviously she still had her Scottish accent back then. And she was pointing to something on the table and was like, fucking saw, fucking saw, fucking saw, fucking saw. And my mum's like, what's fucking saw? Like, what's fucking saw? Like, She's like looking at her finger and is like, have you hurt your finger? What's happened? And my sister's just really frustratedly being like, no, fucking saw. And it turns out there was a placemat from Thomas the Tank Engine and she was pointing to the fat controller. Like, fucking saw.
Yeah, well, if you were that fat, you'd be fucking sore too. So Lara goes to the clock expert, but along the way...
She pulled up, even with a lorry on her right. The window rolled down, revealing a balding, overweight driver with a leering, gap-toothed smile. Like your leather pants, missy, he shouted. Lara smiled. I like your teeth. He glared and gave her the finger.
I feel like if Dickens was still alive, like, this would be his take on modern society.
Yeah.
What a novel. And back to the clock. 40 minutes later, she had the bike parked and was walking in the front door of Boothby's. Boothby's auction house, the granddaddy of the auction troika, along with Christie's and Sotheby's, and her personal favourite among the three, Lara Croft, Bargain Hunter. My favourite.
I hear that you got friendly with a monkey at one point.
Love it, love it. I love that she's on the bargain hunt. I also love that they made up one of the big three.
Yeah, it's great.
It's like going, she went to the fridge, there was Coke, there was Pepsi, and there was her favourite of the big colas, Mr. Bubbly Pants.
And just passing it off as legit, just being like, Mr. Bubbly Pants.
Yeah, Mr. Bubbly Pants.
Clearly.
You remember their campaigns. They
You're
invented...
not drinking a cold Mr. Bubbly Pants in the theatre right now?
They invented Santa Claus. But inside the auction house, she's very surprised to see...
Alex West, in his trademark jeans and leather jacket, looking exactly like he had that last day.
A rival Tomb Raider, and this is Mr. Daniel Craig, looking potato-y as ever.
I think he looks quite handsome still, but
yeah.
I like potatoes.
Well, a good source of iodine?
Yeah.
Potassium.
Maybe. Carbohydrates?
Yeah. What's the thing you do to them to make them purple? Is that like putting iodine on them? I'm having some weird, like, primary school science memory. And bear in mind, I'm very old. So...
I think didn't potatoes start purple? And then, like, through genetically modification and all that sort of jazz, we end up with the white potatoes we've got today?
I'm going to say yes.
I think that happened.
And I don't know about potatoes, but these two have some beef.
Oh, what segue.
Yeah. 180 episodes.
So much for Alex West. The nerve of the man calling her babe. That would be a topic of conversation number one the next time they met. Babe.
So that's the odd thing, isn't it, in this film, that Angelina Jolie is an American playing a British lady and Daniel Craig is a British man playing an American gentleman.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. There are no American gentlemen.
It's like Highlander, where it's they got a Frenchman playing a Scotsman and a Scotsman playing a Spanish Egyptian.
Like Pacific Rim, where they've got an American and a Brit playing Australians poorly.
Yeah, that was terrible. That was really bad.
It was.
Also, just to point out, Lara's pretty free and easy with showing her body to a butler, but she got pretty angry at the truck driver and now Daniel Craig for calling her a babe.
Well, she won't drop a towel for anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Just people that she's paying, I suppose.
People that have to like it.
I think it's weird, though, that the author chooses to focus on the babe thing, because I actually sort of went... He didn't just call her babe, and then I had to flip back a couple of pages. He called her babe a couple of pages beforehand, and she didn't say anything about it. So if it was such a... Like, you call Marty McFly chicken, that guy's right up in your grill straight away.
Yeah.
But she sort of seemed to ponder it for a good 5 or 10 minutes before going, hey...
Wait a minute.
Yeah, you can't do that. Who do you think you are, Wayne's World? So she shows the clock to Mr. Wilson. He claims to know nothing about it and tells her to take it to Powell. Remember, Powell was Ian Glenn, the bad guy. And this is because, spoilers, Wilson is really Illuminati. Alarminati. I'm alarmed. I don't look. Who cares anyway? Because I was more interested in this.
Lara reached for her guns. Only her gun went there, and she kicked herself for not being prepared. She turned, ready to confront whoever, and saw the pot pie she'd been preparing in the microwave had exploded. The glass was covered with potato. Bugger.
Oh my god. That was the point in the book where I was just on the edge of my seat. the pot pie bit.
That's intense.
And it does happen in the film. I watched that bit of the film. I was just scanning through and it paused and I saw a pie explode in the microwave.
Is it a pot pie, though?
I'm pretty sure it was a pot pie. I don't really know what a pot pie is. A pie in a pot?
Yeah, I guess so.
A microwave safe pot?
Well, clearly it's not because it exploded.
That's true. Then what good is it? So Lara then goes and shows the clock to Powell, and he pretends he doesn't know anything about it either. But that night, while she is doing bungee ballet. Now, can you shed any light on bungee ballet?
No. Is it anything like aerial yoga where they're using ribbons and up in the air and...
Yeah, like she's hanging from bungee cords from the ceiling in her mansion. So, in my opinion, that makes her even more batshit insane than Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah.
And then in this scene, which is very reminiscent of X-Men 2, Powell's strike force attack the mansion in order to steal the clock.
She flipped again in midair and landed on her feet in the upper corridor. She needed her guns. They were on the other side of the stairwell. Hugging the ground, staying on her toes, she began to move. As she did so, she realized she hadn't once questioned who the intruders were or what they were after.
And yet she was so determined to murder them with her guns.
And didn't she just, chastise herself for not being prepared when the microwave pot pie exploded?
True. You would think that pot pie would be put into the film to serve as a very valuable lesson for Lara about preparedness.
Yeah. But no, it's just another wasted opportunity.
Do you think it's that sort of foreshadowing where in the third act, the villain's going to be doing his big victory speech in front of a microwave where a carefully loaded pot pie lays in wait, ready to beat him in the back of the skull at a crucial moment?
Just shatters his spinal column.
Save Lara's life. Okay, I'm going to call in a quick Wikipedia save here because this part of the plot goes on for pages and pages and pages, and I'd rather not summarize it in my own words when Wikipedia has done it for me. The next morning, Lara receives a letter from her father arranged to arrive after the beginning of the alignment, where he explains that the clock is the key to retrieve two halves of the mystic triangle of light, which is revealed to be an object of phenomenal destructive power that granted its wielder power over time and space. He says that it was made from a metal found in a meteor crater made by a meteor that had fallen to Earth during a previous alignment. Initially housed in a city built in the meteor crater by those who worshipped the object, misuse of the triangle's power destroyed the city, and so it was split into two halves, one hidden in a tomb in Cambodia, and the other half in the ruined city itself in modern-day Siberia. That doesn't seem like a very good plan, just putting the second half in where it began.
Yeah.
Her father urges her to find and destroy both halves before the Illuminati can find it. You think you just put it in a safe or something, right? Until the alignment was over?
Yeah, totally. Or even, because ultimately doesn't Lara sort of lead them to find it? And so if she didn't intervene, they probably wouldn't have found it in the first place?
Yeah, this whole second half is really just about triangles changing hands back and forth for...
Yeah.
Over.
And also the writing a letter to arrive on the day of the alignment is very Back to the Future.
True. Very something Doc would do.
Yeah.
So, but look, you're reading too much into this. Let's get back to the important stuff.
Instead of more money, Bryce got Hillary's French toast, as did Lara, who wolfed hers down in no time at all.
You can't start an adventure without a proper breakfast. And I'm always, my main question in novelizations is she hot? My second question now is, what did they have for breakfast? I need
French toast. Delicious French toast.
know.
Oh, Mum, give us a bit of that Buttercup Country Split.
I just can't help myself. It's just sitting right there in front of me, all these lovely coloured buttons. All right, now, there is a photo section in this book, and you'd think, all right, Angelina Jolie, this should be okay. These are, mostly publicity pictures, like her just on a black background, and they're really bad. She's horribly lit, really overexposed on one side, part of her face is just white. And she looks really sweaty and gross. And her arms are all veiny. And the only screenshots from the film, like there's one sort of blurry shot of her with two guns in the temple, and there's like her in the shower, which just half the picture's black from where the shower store wall is, and you can just see her shoulders and her head.
Really painting a picture for me.
Yeah.
I feel like I can see the photos.
It's just like you're there. And then another photo, she's wearing a fur hood in Siberia, and it's got ears.
It's got ears.
Yeah, I think so. Like, because I guess your real ears are covered, so you need other ears outside to hear.
Yeah, touching on the photos, I feel like this movie was marketed really weirdly. They did market it as being really sweaty and dark and weirdly lit and stuff. It was pretty strange. I remember at the time I was like, oh, this is maybe they did it to be eye-catching.
God, this other picture, I'm just really noticing the veins in her arms are fucking huge. They look like they could strangle you.
Well, she's a Tomb Raider, man. You can't skip arm day for a Tomb Raider.
She looks like Bane in Batman and Robin.
It's because all those
crazy
handstands and shit she does, and hanging off ledges and shinnying across ledges. And
I used to think that Angelina Jolie was just like, you just accepted because that was the sort of publicity that she was. Yes, she's like the most attractive person in the world.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. There's something, I don't know.
You don't like veiny arms?
No, I don't like veiny arms.
She could crush you with them. Imagine how powerful she'd be.
Though I do like Lou
That's what you need to
Ferrigno.
look for in a woman, a powerful woman.
That's true. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm an insecure man. So, over halfway through this epic book, Lara finally arrives in Cambodia, and you're not going to believe this. Here we go.
The clump of brown was a huge hole in the ground, a massive excavation. Hundreds of workers, brown-skinned men stripped to the waist, hauling ropes with all their might. The ropes were tied to huge metal bolts. The bolts were sunk into giant blocks of sandstone, which they were pulling up from the ground, leaving behind a black empty hole. The tomb.
A tomb! There is a tomb in this book! Finally! I reckon, and I don't want to, get anyone too excited, I reckon it's going to get raided.
Yeah, I reckon there's someone going to be raiding that tomb.
I reckon, because we know of two potential raiders, Angelina Jolie and Daniel Craig. I reckon they're both going to raid it.
Yep, together.
Yes. God, you almost feel like, this would have been so different if Daniel Craig had his current celebrity back then.
Yeah.
Like if it was Lara Croft and Daniel... Yeah, I don't know. So Lara realizes that Powell has hired Alex West. That's Daniel Craig. Here he is. He's here. He's raiding. And this is some great dialogue. This is between Bryce and Lara. Let's alternate this. Her earpiece crackled. Did you say Alex West?
Just hired by the bad guys, and you don't have to sound so smug about it. Bryce had never liked Alex, ever since he'd heard about the prayer wheels.
Oh, bloody hell. I can hear a gauntlet being thrown down. Clang-a-lang.
Clang-a-lang? Bryce, are you smoking?
So this isn't a novel anymore. This is just a random smattering of words on a page. Like, just assuming that no one's going to ever read this, no one's going to edit it, just all thrown together.
I'm definitely going to use clang-a-lang in my everyday speak now.
Clang-a-lang.
Clang-a-lang.
Clang-a-lang. In the tomb, Powell, Ian Glenn, he does not like the decor.
Monkey god. Powell, standing next to him, shook his head. Actually, the statues, there were 6 of them, all in a row, looked like monkey soldiers to him. They all wore helmets and very fierce expressions, and had been posed with long metal swords in their hands. What on earth is there to worship about a monkey?
Hey, fuck you, Ian Glenn. Monkeys are awesome, and they make any story, particularly a movie, when you get to see them, like giving the finger or like having roller skates or riding a little bike or something. They like make everything better.
Monkeys are the best. I've watched so many YouTube videos of monkeys just stealing things off random tourists. It's amazing.
And just like gifs of them like laughing while wearing clothes. I love that. And like shooting guns and stuff like that. And in Jumanji, they all got into a police car. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because it was like, monkey is police? That's what I was saying at the script. What? Monkey is police? How done this law do stuff and things? So, yeah, I don't know what Ian Glenn's problem is, but he's a prick.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lara manages to get the triangle piece from Alex West, and then the statues, the monkey statues, come alive because of meteorite magic or something.
The monkey soldiers were all coming to life. Holy Mother of God, Pym said.
There's
stumbling back.
Pims.
There's Pims. The monkey soldier next to Powell raised its sword.
The crazy monkeys are going ape shit. It is the best part of the film. Crazy monkeys.
Absolutely bananas.
They've got armor. They've got swords. They're just swinging around. They want to be like you. It's just amazing.
I got to tell you though, like retrospectively, this has really dated this scene. It's pretty bad.
What are you saying?
It's awful. The monkey magic is not good enough.
All the magic has been sapped out of these monkeys through the ravages of time.
Yeah, basically.
Well, look, the good news is the author is now racing through this book too. It's all very plot heavy now, not a lot of excerpts worth mentioning. Lara escapes. She has tea with a monk, not a monkey. It's not a monkey tea party. That would make the movie better, but no. She has another vision of her dead father. Then she goes to Venice and she breaks into Alex West's hotel room while he's in the shower. I don't know what it says about me that I vividly remember this scene.
Well, it's Daniel Craig naked in the shower.
True.
Alex started singing Soft Cell. She decided to leave her message on the steamed-up bathroom mirror, a single 7-letter word, which conveyed her opinion of him far better than any combination of a 4-letter word would have done.
7-letter word. Any guesses? I'm thinking maybe bastard, dipshit, fuckwit, fuckboy, arseface, cumpslut, dickbag, shitbag, jerk off.
Oh, God. Why wasn't it babe? Why didn't she just be like, babe?
Babe is a 4-letter word.
I know, but that would have been perfect because it would have tied in with earlier and...
Yeah, he would have been like, oh, now I know how objectifying that is.
Yeah, exactly.
And the towel, which wasn't around his waist, it was hanging off his dick like a hook, would just slowly wilt to the floor. The word was traitor, which at least is better than her writing "Welcome to the World of AIDS" on the mirror. That's an urban legend, kids.
It's too dark for a PG film.
Yeah, look that up if you think that came out of nowhere. So he throws away the towel and started walking toward her, which there seems to be a lot of that going on in this universe. A lot of trying to stare down the other person with your genitals.
With your clock out.
Yes, with your clock. Yeah, so both... I think I just had a stroke. Both the good and bad have to meet up in Siberia to figure out their triangles. But let's not get too caught up in that. Let's stick to the important parts.
The chin hook refueled again. A tray of sandwiches was passed around.
What did they have for lunch? That's what I want to know. I just want to make sure these characters are all having a balanced 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
At
French
least.
toast, sandwiches, and Mr. Bubbly Pants.
Mr. Bubbly Pants. Well, look, speaking of... There's a segue. This doesn't happen in the film, by the way. West and Lara, they meet an old man in Siberia, and we are very much reminded that this is being written by Americans. Now, there are no hamburgers or hot dogs that I could find, but I think this comes pretty close.
They both smiled at the old man, who reached into his jacket and pulled out an empty soda can. Coke? He turned the can upside down and shook it out. Empty. Coke? He asked hopefully. Lara shook her head. Sorry. Hold on a second. Alex was wearing a fanny pack. He pulled it around to the front and reached inside. He came out with a ginger ale. Schweppes?
Always keep a Schweppes in your fanny. That is very important tomb raiding advice. And I think it was a tagline on one of the posters as well.
Always keep a Schweppes in your fanny.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel kind of bad because it's funny that he's wearing a fanny pack because I feel like it's not a very cool Tomb Raider-y thing to be wearing, but when I was working in the film industry, I also wore a fanny pack.
Yeah, right.
So I'm like, oh God, I want to humiliate him, but also I'd be humiliating myself at the same time.
Now,
Don't do it. Fanny packs are dumb, and he shouldn't be wearing one as a Tomb Raider.
am I right in thinking that Americans have fannies on the back, but they wear their fanny packs on the front? So did you wear your fanny pack on the back?
I wore my fanny pack on the side because I'm cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That works. Do you think that maybe, I talked about how sweaty she was in all these photos. Do you think that maybe that's because that was before the Schweppes was in the... I'm going to stop.
Sweps in your fanny.
Yes. By the way, how refreshing. We haven't dwelled too much on Lara's dialogue, but she constantly says things like, greedy, greedy boy, and little boys, always in a hurry. So she's constantly infantilizing the men, which makes her character come across as this kind of demented Mary Poppins sort of figure.
I think it all ties back in with the Sigmund Freud reference we had earlier. And I feel like he'd have a lot to say about that.
She's clock crazy. This bloody Lara Croft is crazy for clock.
Bugger!
Time for the Wikipedia save. Like, you'd think that there would be an interesting piece of writing for me to pull out of this climax, but there's not. So I think this is fair that I'm starting to do this, because this is always the point where the show sort of runs low on jokes. We just want to get to the end. And basically, it also gives the author a little bit of something up their sleeve. If you want to read this book, you can read the climax in their words rather than have us say it to you. But this is the ending via Wikipedia, if you're so curious to know what happens.
Lara retrieves the last half of the triangle, but when Powell tries to complete it, the halves will not fuse. He realizes that Lara knows the solution to the puzzle and kills West in order to persuade her to complete the triangle to save both West's life and her father's. Lara reluctantly complies, and they then struggle for control of the triangle, with Lara prevailing. Lara then finds herself in a strange alternate existence facing her father, Lord Richard Croft, John Voight.
Dick Croft.
He explains that it is a crossing of time and space, and urges her to destroy the triangle instead of using it to save his life. She leaves her father and returns to the chamber where time is slowly running backwards from the point where Powell killed West. Croft takes a knife he threw into West's chest and reverses it, then destroys the triangle, which returns time to its normal flow and directs the knife into Powell's shoulder. The chamber begins to self-destruct. Everyone turns to leave, but Powell tells Croft that he killed her father and retrieved his pocket watch with a picture of Lara's mother inside. Lara and Powell engage in a hand-to-hand fight. Lara kills him, retrieves it, and escapes as the chamber crumbles.
Another trope. This film is just full of cliches and tropes, isn't it? The old let's escape as the whole thing crumbles around us. And that does lead us directly into the ending. I haven't read this before, so I always save this for live. Please feel free to interrupt if you want to comment on anything here.
Sure.
She knelt down next to her father's headstone. Lord Croft died in the field, 15th of May, 1981. Lost but never forgotten. Never forgotten, she whispered, and not entirely lost either. She kissed her hand, then touched her fingers to the stone. I love you, Daddy. I'll be back soon. She stood and walked into the house. Hillary and Bryce were waiting at the top of the stairs. Both of them wore huge grins. What? She set her hands on her hips. What are you staring at? Hillary held out his hand to Bryce. Money, please. Bryce reached in his pants, pulled out a wad of bills, and passed them over. I don't mind, you know. This is worth the price of admission. He raised the camera, then and pointed it at her. Click. Alert the tattler. Lara Croft in a dress. Now, this is a subplot throughout the story that they want to get her in a dress because she's so, like, she's more masculine than Chris Barry and Noah Taylor standing on each other's shoulders. So I'm wearing the dress. So what? She frowned at Hillary. If you'd see to the laundry more often, I'd have more than one option when dressing.
Ooh, burn.
Though she had to admit she was looking forward to Alex's face at dinner that evening when he saw her wearing it. Bryce and Hillary were still smiling at her. Don't you have anything better to do? Hillary looked hurt. I've been very busy cleaning, I'll have you know. He had been busy. The manor looked good as new. That's bad for an antique, right? Restoration. Shabby chic. Not cool. She glared at Bryce.
She kicked to bits?
Yes. And you, what's your excuse for laying about? Oh, no, laying about. Not me, I've been busy too. Really? Lara folded her arms. Doing what? She heard a clanking sound behind her and turned. Bryce's droid walked out from the equipment room all shined up good as new. Even better, in fact. The droid's fists were no longer drills. Now they were cannons. Lara tossed Hillary her straw hat. "Hold this for me," she said, and kicked off her shoes. The end. So, it's a circle. We talked before about the snakehead eating its own tail.
Yeah.
If you're watching the film, the great thing is you get to that point, you can just skip straight back to chapter 1, and you can watch this again and again and again for the rest of your life.
It's like it's a time pocket.
Oh
Maybe
my
she didn't destroy the truck.
God. Yes, very open to interpretation. That is wonderful. And I don't normally do this, but I just wanted to mention the acknowledgements from the author that are written in the back of this book. Because he sort of calls out what we were talking about before. The author would like to thank the folks at Eidos Interactive who made Lara Croft into a game, the folks at Paramount who turned the game into a movie, the folks at Pocket who helped me turn the movie into a book, and Stephen Upham who turned me into an expert on Lara Croft, and of course Smokey who knew just when I should turn it in. That's a bit cryptic. What do you reckon Smokey is?
Smokey could be anything. Smokey could be a dog. It could be a horrible sounding old uncle. It could be Aunt Tilly.
Could be the smoke monster from Lost.
Yeah, true.
But this would be before it was Lost.
Yeah, maybe that's how it got its beginnings. Wait, Lost
Authors-
was before. Was Lost after 2001?
I have no idea. I've never watched Lost. I've watched like
we
the
went
odd
back and watched
odd
marathoned
episode.
it because I had to resolve the melody in my head.
But yeah, authors are notorious for mentioning their pets.
Yeah.
Like, because often I'll get to the end of a book and I'll be like, yeah, but what animals do you own? And then I'll be like, he lives on a ranch with his 2 budgies and a cat called Steve. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
God.
Sweet release. So now I have to ask you the question that I ask everyone. I want you to get nervous. I know this is your first time here, but this is part of the deal.
Yeah.
Was the book better?
Look, I'm going to say yes.
Mm,
I liked it. I liked the book.
controversial.
Yeah. I think because the movie has dated, I think I'm more inclined to enjoy the book. It's a much richer experience, you know?
It's an ugly film.
It's a very ugly film.
Yeah, it's not not
For having
pretty.
like the most beautiful person in the world, and then Daniel Craig, who then becomes the most handsome man in the world.
Yeah.
Then like Jorah from Game of Thrones, who's also the most handsome man in the world. It's a pretty ugly film.
I know that people are kind of against toying with a film after the fact, like the special editions of Star Wars trilogy and E.T. as well. But do you think that so that this film isn't wasted, you could just cut out the Daniel Craig parts and turn it into an ad for potatoes?
Yes, definitely.
Wouldn't be a bad
Gut
campaign. All right, so I went to Amazon to see some reviews, and people fucking love this book.
Nice.
Oh, I didn't vote. I got to vote. I like the movie better.
Oh, okay.
Just because the movie starts with the robot fighting. Like, the movie goes, robot fight, shower scene. You know, like, it just does that. It doesn't go, oh, fucking dad was looking through his papers and, oh.
But it doesn't have Disco Droid. Disco Droid is what makes
I
the book.
like Disco Droid. You're right. But I've already voted. I can't take it back or they'd come after me. Tim the Stats Man would fuck up my shit. Here's some Amazon. 5 out of 5 stars. Really good for a novelization. Very good, in fact. It adds a lot to the movie. More fleshed out characters and such. It's only $6. So what do you have to ooze? An L, apparently. Another plus is the 8 pages of pictures featuring the amazingly beautiful Angelina Jolie. So, wow. That photo section made more than one person sweaty, apparently.
And veiny.
Well played. Here's another one. I really like this book. It was awesome. The parts with the Order people kind of got a little confusing for me, but the parts when Lara Croft was in action was awesome. Buy this book if you like action and adventure. This book was awesome! With a lot of exclamation points.
It's really excited.
Yeah. And finally, It's a really good book. It's a really quick read, and everyone that are fans or that aren't fans of Lara Croft and the Tomb Raider game should read it. I couldn't put it down. One of the best adventure books I have read. So I don't make this offer that often, but if you are that person and can prove that you're that person, I will buy you a better adventure book for free.
And also, like, a way to format a sentence better.
Yeah. I will give you some of the commas. And
take some commas
stops
from the book and put them in your answer.
From the book and smatter it in. So there you go. That was Tomb Raider. Can you believe it?
That was great.
Yeah. Do you know, is the new film this year or is it next year?
I think it's next year.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it should be good. I mean, the new games were really fun and in a totally different direction, which was really great. So I'm hoping that the movie is also like that.
Yeah, the only thing that I've only played the first reboot one. I haven't played the second, but I did buy it on my Christmas holidays. I just kind of ran out of time.
Nice.
And
well, you got podcasts and books to read. And
yeah, well, like, I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn at the moment, but the thing is, the PlayStation 4 is plugged in and the Xbox One isn't. And for some reason, I bought the Tomb Raider sequel on the Xbox One, and I know when I plug it in, it's going to have like 4 days of updates.
Yeah, it's
so
pretty awful.
I haven't done it.
The reason
yet.
you bought it on Xbox One is because it was exclusive for a while.
Oh, is that right? That's probably, yeah. I bought it pre-owned, so it must have been like that was the cheapest option at the time.
Yeah. Side note, how great is Horizon?
Yeah, I tell you what, like I didn't talk about it on FP Cast. I was going to, and I'm glad I didn't because it was only 3 hours into it at that point, which is all the really heavy story stuff.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating me because I was like, I just want to go out and kill dinosaurs.
Kill robot dinosaurs.
Yeah, and it kept telling me story. But once you become a seeker and you go out and get to play, I found it really enjoyable. I mean, I was blown away by the visuals and the combat that I had done prior to that. There just wasn't enough of it.
Yeah, no, totally.
But now it's super fun.
Yeah.
And kind of reminiscent to sort of tie in with the Tomb Raider thing. You forget that was the wonderful thing about those first Tomb Raider games is that you were fighting like a T-Rex and stuff.
Yeah.
Which
and
also just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and like, you know, Horizon is a huge game with a female lead. And Tomb Raider was like one of the first games, especially action games, with a female lead as well.
I will say, though, as much as I love the new ones and they're such better playing experiences, there's something really hard to articulate about those original games. This sort of kind of creepy loneliness that I felt in those tombs. Like, they felt with no dialogue, no story, and just putting you into these places. Like, I don't know if you remember, there was one which had a tomb which was all these... like a huge sort of downward tunnel of platforms that you would continue to descend, and there were rooms with puzzles. There was a Damocles room, and there were like rogue gorillas and stuff roaming around, and it used to really kind of freak me out. Whereas when you're Tomb Raider hanging out and talking to all your douchebag friends, it doesn't quite feel the same.
Yeah, I also got that from the water levels where you have to swim in the sharks and stuff.
Oh, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, that was
water
terrifying.
Levels scare the shit out of me in any game.
Yeah, true.
Because if it's not breath management, it's... because it's so funny, like on land, you will just like stand your ground and fight something. But in the water, the instinct is just, get the fuck out, it's behind
so
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't she shoot 1,000 animals in this movie?
Maybe Peter got involved and they were like, hey, that's you guys kill a lot of gorillas and T-Rexes, maybe don't do that.
Yeah. Stop shooting all these endangered species in the face, Lara.
Yeah. Yeah, these gorillas that have survived in like a sealed tomb for millennia.
Yes, that's right.
And then it's like she goes in and just wastes them with her gun.
All those emperors and kings that were like, I want to be buried with my best gorillas. Okay, well, look, thank you so much, man. This has been really cool. I hope that was an okay first experience. Sorry I'm a little bit Monday public holiday loose today.
That's fine. Next time I'll be Monday.
Yeah, well, look, it only gets easier after that first one. So
Thanks for having me.
no, well, look, this is such a pleasure, and I should say again, thanks to the Patreon people for sorting out this mixing desk and stuff, because doing something like this with somebody who is not here in this boiling hot room is so easy now, and it really expands the possibilities. We might have Vikander on talking about the cradle of life. Who knows?
Yeah, I'll hit her up.
Yeah. So anything that we missed, anything you would like to sort of cover before we drop out of here?
No, I think that's it. I think we kind of covered it.
And anything you would like to draw people's attention to, or?
No, yeah. Like I said, I've got a few things in the pipeline that will hopefully blossom next time, if there is a next time.
So sort of like Super Mario, he had a few things in the pipeline.
Yeah, exactly. Just call me Mario.
Yeah, it's coins and mushrooms and things. All right, well, we look forward to all of those coming to fruition. I would like to thank everybody for listening. Please go to fruitlesspursuits.com if you would like to know what we're doing, which is always one of two things, which is FPcast or this. So there'll be links to that. There'll be links to our Facebook discussion group where you can talk about all sorts of things, particularly new films and pop culture news and stuff. FPcast just reviewed Logan, so you can look at that. And thanks to our Patreon subscribers, we will continue to try and push out new content. And I'm not sure what next week's Book Was Better is. I've got a few ideas, but I was really ahead, and now I'm just far behind. You probably found that because I was a poor communicator with you. Like, when it's your first time, you're like, well, I need to know what's happening. Like, what are you doing? Have you read the book? Whereas I'm just like, I'll be there on the day.
It's just chill.
It's episode
What books
180.
I can vote them and tell you what to do next week.
Yeah. I want to do Pokemon 2000 next week, but we'll see.
God.
Yeah. All right. Cool. You've got one job left, my friend.
Yep.
You've got to say the welcome to the thing. Do you remember that?
The what?
You just say, not welcome to the... you say catch you on the flip.
Right.
Yeah. That's the only way we get out of this podcast.
Cool.
You say catch you on the flips. See, if you haven't gone back into the archive, you don't know the horrible, embarrassing, humiliating origin of that for Jess.
I don't.
So the first episode, and she goes at the end, all right, so catch you on the flips. Oh, no, I don't want to say that. I was like, no, but you got to say that every single episode now, because
I can do that.
That's your sign-off. Like,
Cool.
That's the thing. Because, you don't want to... it's a fucking podcast. You don't want to workshop it for a few weeks. It's just whatever it is what it is.
Exactly.
And so there you go.
All right. Well, I'll catch you on the flips.
Jumanji.